Hello, what's up, guys? Welcome to this first episode of Startup Standup. So, in this particular episode, I will give you the basic idea of what is startup and how to grow it. So, let me first give you a preview of this episode. I will give you an intro to startup and then I'll also share a couple of definitions with you. Then I'll give you some stats and facts of some big tech companies who were startups initially. And at the later part of this episode, I will discuss some steps required to build a startup with you. So without any further ado, let's get started. Jeff Bezos, Amazon founder and CEO, once said, "I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that. But I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying." Have you ever heard this before or watched it somewhere in movies or documentaries? That how brilliant college kids sitting in a dorm are inventing the future with youthful enthusiasm. They build new company from scratch. They hire their friends, assemble their team, and dare the world to stop them. Now let me give you a couple of definitions on startup. Number one, a startup is a young company founded by one or more entrepreneurs to develop a unique product or service to bring it to market. Number two, it's a human institution designed to create new products and services under condition of extreme uncertainty. I mean, it's basically a small company with the vision of growing up into a bigger one. But before taking a deep dive into a startup entrepreneurship, it really makes sense to discuss how the whole startup world originated. So I've recently came across a documentary on History TV channel, The Men Who Built America. On that documentary, I could clearly see how America was built by startups and private businesses. Now, startups are often linked with the rise of Silicon Valley. The tech company concentration around Stanford University has had a huge impact on the technological development of America, as well as of the whole world. Now, look at some of the major tech companies like Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, Twitter, and LinkedIn. All of them were startups which have grown into $1 billion valuation in few years. But here the question arises, how did that actually happen? How did they able to achieve such an amazing growth rate? Let's take Facebook as an example, as most of the people uses it. If we observe Facebook's annual revenue from 2007 to 2019, we see that in 2007 it was $153 million US. Whereas in 2019, it has increased to about $70 billion US. So this was all about revenue. But now what do you think? How many monthly active users does Facebook have? As of the first quarter of 2020, Facebook is the biggest social network worldwide with over 2.6 billion monthly active users. Now, let me give you another stat. According to a website, the number of smartphone users worldwide today surpasses 3 billion and is forecast to further grow by several hundred millions in next few years. China, India, United States are the countries with highest number of smartphone users, with each country easily surpasses the 100 million user mark. Now what these stats tell us? They tell us that if anyone wants to start a business, then it's better be a digital business. Because you have such a large number of users on internet and it's a great opportunity to grab. The internet and other modern technologies have created huge business opportunities and possibility to grow companies rapidly. Now if you are not from US, then you might be thinking, as it's all about America, what about my country? So let me tell you that now the startup phenomenon is no longer confined into the Silicon Valley or even the US. But rather, it has become a fully global phenomenon with growth centers all over the world. Like Zomato, which is an Indian restaurant aggregator and food delivery startup founded by Deependra Goyal and Pankaj Chadha in 2008 in India, which has generated revenue of $206 million US in fiscal year 2019. Take an example of Spotify, a Swedish media services provider and music streaming service, which has its headquarters in Stockholm, Sweden, has generated revenue of around $7.5 billion US in fiscal year 2019. And there are many such examples which clearly show that how internet has given a platform for developing countries to develop and grow their startup culture. So till now, we have seen that how easy has it become to build your own startup. But what do you think? Is it really that easy to start a business or to think of an idea which can bring profit to you? Or is it easy to attract investors for your product? So let's first look at some important steps that one has to take to build its own startup. Though everyone has their own unique journey, but I think these are some required steps that everyone has to take. So firstly, I'm going to tell you these steps and then we'll discuss them in detail in upcoming episode. So building a startup is an exercise in institution building. Thus it necessarily involves management. I think there are 3 stages in building a product. First, a vision. Second, a strategy or a plan. Third, implementation. Now let's look at the initial stage of this process. A vision. It's basically the idea of your startup. Now for many people it's not an easy task to find an idea. So is there any method? Yes, I think so. And I'll discuss that in upcoming episode. But now the hardest part in coming up with a great idea is it that the best ideas often look terrible in the beginning. I mean, who could have thought that a simple search engine will have such a large impact on the lives of people across the world? So never feel that my idea is stupid. Instead, look for the possibilities to grow that idea. Now comes the second stage, a strategy. Did you know that only 50% of startups survive more than 5 years? Unfortunately, many startups fail to achieve market fit. I mean, without a growth strategy in place, startups have no clear roadmap towards long-term success. Now here comes the final stage, implementation. Now it's time to take action. It is the process that turns strategies and plans into action. In order to accomplish strategic objectives or goals, implementing your plan is as important, or I think even more important than your strategy. So these were the 3 stages in the process of building your product or startup. So that's it for this episode. If you like this one, then do follow my podcast and make sure to share it with everyone you know. If you have any question to ask, you can send me your voice message using voice message button on Anchor or directly message me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter accounts. I would love to take up some of your questions related to startups and businesses in my upcoming episode. Till then, stay hungry, stay foolish, take care.